So here you are, sitting in the dark, thinking you've got some grand master plan with this thing they call silence. You think it's power, you think it's control, you think it'll make them sit up at night, haunted by your absence, tormented by memories of what they lost. Ha! What a beautiful lie. Let me shatter that illusion for you. Silence isn't power when you're still chained to their memory. It's not strength when you're sitting there, refreshing their profile, waiting for a sign, a crumb, a spark of regret. Oh, you think I can't see through you? I know exactly what you're doing. Pretending you've moved on while your heart still plays their highlight reel on repeat. You call it healing, but deep down, it's a waiting game, hoping that one day your absence will scream louder than words ever could, that they'll wake up one morning and realize what they lost, rush back into your arms with apologies dripping from their lips. But let me tell you something. They're not coming. They're not pacing the floor or staring at the ceiling wondering where you went. They're not suffering. You are. They've already filed you away in a drawer labeled use when needed. They know you. They've studied your patterns, like a hunter watches its prey. They're not confused by your silence. They're counting on it, because your silence keeps you trapped in the same twisted game they've been playing all along. You think you're teaching them a lesson? No, you're giving them a free pass. You're not a ghost haunting their memory. You're a prisoner in your own mind. Let me ask you something. How long are you going to sit there, locked in this cave you built with your own silence? How long are you going to suffocate yourself with words unsaid and feelings buried alive? You think if you stay quiet long enough, they'll come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, making everything right? Ha! Welcome to reality. Silence only works on people who care, on people who value your presence, on people who actually feel. And, oh, please don't lie to yourself. You already know this. You felt it in your bones, in those quiet, lonely nights when you waited for a text that never came, when you stared at your phone like it owed you an explanation. They don't care. They never did. They used you like their personal puppet, pulling your strings whenever it suited them, making you dance on command, only to toss you aside when the performance no longer entertained them. And there you were, tangled in the wires of hope, thinking your silence would somehow teach them a lesson they already graduated from. That school? They wrote the damn textbook. You were just another chapter they skimmed through, a side story they never bothered to finish. They've mastered the art of pretending they cared, pretending they listened, pretending you mattered, until they were done. And now, your silence is nothing but background noise, an empty space they don't even notice, because you were never the main event in their world. And the worst part? Deep down, you knew. You always knew. But you clung to that last shred of hope like a drowning soul reaching for air, thinking that maybe, just maybe, your absence would be enough to jolt them awake, to make them feel something. But here's the brutal truth. They don't feel anything. They've built walls so high that even your loudest silence couldn't shake them. They've perfected the art of discarding, detaching, moving on while leaving you stuck, spinning in the web they wove. They're not haunted by your absence. They're empowered by it. They don't sit there wondering where you went. They sit there knowing you'll be back because you've done it before. They've seen your silence. They've survived it. They've outlasted it. And what about you? You're sitting there, waiting for a change that will never come, from someone who never cared, from someone who never saw you as anything more than a temporary fix, a convenience. So, tell me, when are you going to stop lying to yourself? When are you going to cut the strings, step off the stage, and burn the whole theater down? When are you going to stop being the puppet and start being the puppeteer of your own life? They don't deserve your silence. They don't deserve your attention. They don't deserve a second more of your soul. So, affirm with me right now. Say this out loud. I am done being used. I am not a puppet. I am not their second choice. My silence isn't for them, it's for me. To heal, to rise, to become unstoppable. And I need you to drop that affirmation in the comments. Simply write, I am not a puppet. Declare your worth to the world. Write it for once and for all. Let this be the moment you draw the line, where you stop being controlled and start taking control. So, drop it out in the world. I am not a puppet. And when you're at it, press that like button if this hit you where it needed to. If this shook something deep inside you. If it reminded you of the power you've buried for too long. And subscribe if you're ready to rise, ready to break free, ready to become unshakable. The puppet show is over, but for you, it's just beginning. Let's rewrite your story. Number 1. The puppet show they're running. Have you ever watched a spider trapping a fly? The fly struggles, thinking it can break free. It fights, twists, turns, but the more it moves, the deeper it gets stuck. And while the fly believes it's still got a chance, the spider is just waiting, calculating, smiling in that silent, deadly way. That's what they're doing to you. You're caught in their web, tangled in their strings, thinking you're making some bold, powerful move with your silence. You believe that pulling away is making them miss you, making them regret losing you, making them feel something. But let me tell you the hard truth. They've seen it all before. They're not confused by your silence. They're expecting it. You think you're unpredictable, mysterious, a puzzle they can't figure out. But in reality, they've already solved you. You've played this game with them so many times that they already know your next move before you make it. They know your silence isn't power, it's pain. They know you're sitting there, waiting, hoping, hurting. They're not wondering where you went. They're counting the seconds until you come crawling back. They know you will, because you always do. Your silence isn't a weapon. It's a white flag, a surrender wrapped in the illusion of strength. You think you're punishing them, making them suffer. But while you sit there in silence, tearing yourself apart, overthinking every second, they're living their life carefree, unbothered, probably lining up their next target, because they already know how this story ends. They've been the star of this twisted play too many times before. It's not just that they don't miss you, it's that they never did. People like them don't value what they have. They only value what they might lose control over. And as long as you're stuck in that web of silence, hoping they'll notice your absence, they still have control. They've reduced you to a role in their personal puppet show. They know exactly how far you'll go before you break, how long your silence will last before you cave in, how much you'll tolerate before you run back, begging for crumbs. They've studied you. You're not unpredictable. You're reliable. They've turned you into a scripted character in their game, someone they can manipulate, discard, and reel back in when it suits them. You think your silence is confusing them? No, it's entertaining them. They're watching from the sidelines, smirking, knowing you're trapped in a war they've already won. They're not losing sleep. They're counting the days until you fold. You're not a mystery to them. You're not some riddle they can't solve. You're the same predictable puzzle they've put together before, and they've mastered every piece. But let me tell you this, you can still change the game. You can still shock them, flip the entire table, and leave them stunned and powerless. Not with silence, but with indifference, with freedom, by walking away and never looking back. You think you need closure? A final word? some grand moment of recognition from them? You don't. They'll never give it to you. Not because they can't, but because they won't. Closure isn't something they offer. It's something you take. Say this out loud. I am not a puppet. I am not predictable. I am free now. Write it in the comments. Declare it. Own it. Break the cycle right here, right now. And if this hit you where it needed to, press that like button and share this message with someone who's still tangled in the strings. Subscribe if you're ready to rise, because we're just getting started here. What comes next will change everything. Stay with me. Number 2, you're screaming in a vacuum, and they're wearing noise-canceling headphones. Have you ever stood in the middle of a wide-open field and screamed at the top of your lungs? Felt the sound tear from your chest, roar in desperate only to realize there's no one around to hear it? No echo, no answer, just empty, deafening silence swallowing your voice whole. That's what you've been doing. You've been screaming with your silence, hoping they'd feel the emptiness you left behind. But they're wearing noise-canceling headphones. They can't hear your silent screams because they don't want to. You thought that cutting off communication would make them wonder, make them miss you, make them feel something. But here's the brutal truth. People like them are experts at tuning out what doesn't serve them. They've spent their entire lives perfecting the art of not listening. While you're consumed by the intensity of your feelings, they're strolling through life with the volume turned down. Your absence reduced to background static. You're a radio station they've already changed the song. They've skipped without a second thought. You think your silence is a loud statement? You think it's piercing through the walls they've built around themselves? But all they hear is the soothing hum of indifference, their own, not yours. Because the truth is, they've been numb this entire time. You're out here bleeding emotion, while they're sitting comfortably behind emotional soundproof walls, untouched and unaffected. They've tuned you out because listening would require them to care. And caring? That's not something they ever signed up for. Their emotional playlist only has one song on repeat. What's in it for me? If your silence doesn't feed their ego, stroke their pride, or entertain them, they'll just switch the channel. You think your silence is punishment? But it only works on someone who misses your voice, someone who remembers how much better their world was with you in it, someone who feels the ache when you're not around. But if they never cared, your silence is nothing but white noise. You're screaming for recognition in a place where no one's listening. You're pouring your soul into a void that doesn't even echo back. It's like trying to argue with a mirror. It reflects back what you project, nothing more. If you're waiting for them to be haunted by the weight of your silence, you'll be waiting forever. Because they've already tuned out your emotions, your words, your existence. And don't you dare think they don't notice. They notice, but they don't care. There's a difference. People like them see when you pull away. They just don't feel the need to chase. Why? Because chasing requires effort, and effort is for people they value. They know they can pretend not to notice. They know you're sitting there, waiting for them to crack, to send that "I miss you" text, to ask why you've gone silent. But they won't. They'll sit back, smug, wearing their emotional noise-canceling headphones, letting you burn in the silence you created. You've been shouting into the abyss, expecting it to care. You think your absence will leave a hole in their life, but the truth is, they've already replaced you, emotionally, mentally, maybe even physically. You're screaming at someone who's already moved on, while you're still standing in the ruins, convinced they're coming back. And here's the twisted part. Sometimes they do come back, but not because they missed you. Oh no, they come back because they heard your silence, realized you were finally slipping away, and decided to reel you back in, not out of love, but out of convenience. They'll slip those headphones off just long enough to pretend they care, long enough to lure you back into their game, and when they're done, those noise-canceling walls go right back up, and you're left screaming into the void again. You're not dealing with someone who's unaware of your feelings. You're dealing with someone who's indifferent. They've built a fortress around their emotions, locked the gates, and thrown away the key. Your silence doesn't breach those walls. It bounces off like whispers in a storm. They're not haunted by your absence. They're empowered by it. Your silence gives them space to move on, to find someone new, to play the same game with a different name. And you're still stuck, thinking they'll one day hear the echoes of what you never said. But let me be real with you. They won't. You can scream as loudly or as silently as you want. You can vanish for weeks, months, even years. But you'll never be louder than the voice inside their head that tells them they're always in control. So, what now? You've been yelling into the void, hoping it would yell back. But it won't. It never will. Not because you're not worthy of being heard, but because they're not capable of listening. The only way to win this game, stop playing. Take back the power you've been giving them. Stop waiting for a reaction that will never come. Instead, react by letting go. Stop screaming in the vacuum. Let your silence be a choice, not a weapon. And if you're done being stuck in this silence, drop a comment saying, "I am free now." Drop it like you're cutting the strings. You deserve peace, and it starts when you choose to stop screaming. Number 3, you're not a doormat, so why are you lying there like one? Have you ever watched people wipe their muddy shoes on a doormat without a second thought? They stomp, scrape, grind the dirt in, and then walk away like the mat doesn't even exist. No thank you, no recognition, just a dirty, used surface left behind. And here's the hard truth. That's exactly how they've been treating you. They walk in and out of your life, dragging their mess with them, stomping all over your feelings, wiping away their guilt, and leaving you to deal with the stains. And the worst part? You let them. You lie there, motionless, waiting for them to return, thinking maybe this time they'll notice, maybe this time they'll step more carefully, maybe this time they'll care. But they don't. They never did, because people don't respect what they can use. They respect what they can't control. You've been lying there, hoping that being there for them, always available, always forgiving, will make them value you. But that's not how this works. Being a doormat doesn't make people stay. It makes them comfortable leaving. They know you'll still be there, right where they left you. They've conditioned you to believe that if you're kind enough, patient enough, silent enough, they'll change. But kindness without boundaries isn't compassion. It's self-sabotage. They're not going to wake up one day and realize your worth. They're going to keep using you until there's nothing left. You're lying there, hoping they'll notice all the things you did for them, all the times you forgave them, all the times you put them first. But here's the truth. They don't remember what they take for granted. To them, you're not someone special. You're convenient, a pit stop when life gets rough, a comfort zone when things don't work out with someone else. You're the backup plan they come back to when all other options fail, and they know you'll welcome them back without question. But let me ask you this. How much longer are you going to lie there? How much more of yourself are you going to sacrifice, waiting for someone who only shows up when it's easy for them? How much more of your heart are you willing to let them walk all over you, keep making excuses for them? They're just going through a tough time. They didn't mean to hurt me. They'll change if I'm patient enough. But when are you going to stop lying to yourself? When are you going to realize that respect is earned, not begged for, and definitely not waited for? You're not a doormat. You were never meant to be someone's emotional dumping ground, someone's second choice, someone's afterthought. You were meant to be seen, respected, valued. It's time to get up, brush off the dirt they left behind, lock the door they keep walking through. Stop being the soft place they land when life knocks them down. Let them fall. Let them learn that you are not a surface to be stepped on. You are a force to be reckoned with. Say this out loud. I am not a doormat. Write it in the comments. Declare it. Claim your worth. Let this be the moment you stop being what they use and start being what they can't ignore. And listen closely. This isn't about getting even or making them regret it. This is about rising so high they can't even reach the version of you they once took for granted. There's more you need to hear, and what's coming next will wake you up in a way you never expected. Stay with me because you're about to see things for what they really are. Number 4, they're playing chess while you're still setting up the board. You think you're being clever, plotting your next move, playing the silent treatment game like you've got the upper hand. But while you're still setting up the board, they're already playing chess. They've studied your patterns, memorized your emotional triggers, and anticipated every move you're too slow to make. You're sitting there carefully arranging your pieces, thinking your silence is a secret weapon, while they've already declared checkmate in a game you didn't even realize had started. This isn't some innocent misunderstanding. They know exactly what they're doing. They've been running this game long before you showed up, and you're just the latest player in their rigged tournament. They push you away, pull you back, make you feel wanted just enough to keep you hooked, then vanish again, like it's all part of the master plan. And here you are, still thinking they care. You sit there, analyzing every word they said, replaying every moment, building a strategy for how to win them back or worse, make them miss you. But while you're drowning in overthinking, they've already moved on to their next game. Someone else's heart, someone else's trust, someone else's turn to lose. You think your silence is confusing them. You think you're unpredictable. No, they've already accounted for that. They expect you to pull away. They know how long it'll take before you crack, before you reach out, before you break your own rules. You're reacting while they're strategizing. You're trying to play fair in a game that's been rigged from the start. They're not emotionally invested. They're emotionally calculated. You can't outsmart someone who's playing with nothing to lose. And here's the cruel reality. They're not playing to win you back. They're playing to win control. Because the second you care, the second you let yourself hope, they've already won. They've been making moves while you're still stuck deciding whether to play at all. They've been calculating how much they can push you before you snap, and just when you think you've figured out the game, they change the rules. So what are you going to do? Sit there arranging your pawns, waiting for the perfect move? Or are you going to flip the entire board and walk away from a game that was never meant for you to win? Say this out loud. I'm done playing their game. Write it in the comments. Claim it. Declare it. And let them find someone else to manipulate. Because you're no longer a piece on their board. You are the entire game. Number 5. You can't win a war by dropping your sword. So, my friends, the reality is, you can't fight for your worth while standing there unarmed, defenseless, and hoping for mercy from someone who's already decided you're disposable. And yet that's exactly what you've been doing. You've been laying down your sword in the name of love, understanding, patience. You've convinced yourself that being soft, forgiving, and silent will make them see you, value you, choose you. But they don't respect surrender. They never have. They only respect power. You thought that walking away in silence was your weapon, that leaving quietly would make them realize your worth. But silence without self-worth isn't strength, it's submission. It's like dropping your sword in the middle of a battle and expecting the enemy to stop attacking because you mean well. Wake up. They didn't stop because you were kind. They didn't change because you were patient. They didn't care because you loved them harder. They took what they wanted, then left. And while you sit there, hoping they'll feel guilty, they're living their life unbothered. You're still standing on the battlefield, wounded and weaponless, waiting for them to return with apologies and explanations that will never come. You're fighting for someone who's already moved on. Let me tell you something. You are at war, not with them, but with the version of yourself that keeps laying down your sword, keeps surrendering your power, keeps hoping they'll change if you just wait long enough. But wars aren't won with hope. Wars are won with strength, clarity, and action. You can't win by being soft when the other side is playing ruthlessly. You can't win by being the only one who cares. You can't win by begging for someone else's respect, because respect isn't requested, it's demanded. They know you're still holding space for them. They know you're still waiting, still hoping, still playing nice. And that's why they don't care. You're predictable. You're harmless. You've already dropped your sword, and they know you won't pick it back up. But what if you did? What if you stopped waiting? What if you stopped hoping? What if you stopped laying down your power for people who never deserved it? What if you decided right here and now that you're done surrendering? Stop lowering your defenses. Stop fighting fair. Stop being the one who always breaks first. Pick up your sword, not to hurt them, but to protect yourself, to guard your peace, to fight for your future. Say this out loud. I will never lay down my sword again. Write it in the comments. Declare it. Claim it. Stand your ground because you are no one's victim. You are your own warrior. It's time to fight back. 6. You're renting space in their world while they're living rent-free in your head. Think about it. You're out here day after day paying the steep price of your mental peace, overthinking, obsessing, replaying conversations, analyzing every little thing they did or didn't do. You're living in the past while they've moved on completely unbothered, strolling through life as if you never existed. You're paying the emotional rent with your sanity while they're living in your mind for free. No bills, no consequences. Just there, haunting your thoughts, occupying your energy, consuming your every waking moment. And what are you getting in return? Nothing, not even a fraction of the attention you're giving them. You're stuck in a one-sided lease, trapped in the memories of what could have been, while they're out there living, probably dragging someone else into the same twisted game. You're housing their ghost while they've already evicted you from their life. And the most messed up part? They didn't even have the decency to tell you you were being replaced. You're still waiting for closure, still hoping for a resolution that will never come. You're renting space in a place where you don't belong anymore. You've become a tenant in their world, but only in your head. You think they're thinking about you, wondering if you're okay? No. They've moved on. And the longer you let them live rent-free in your mind, the more power you give them. While you're mentally stuck in the past, they're out there collecting new memories, starting fresh, unaffected by the emotional storm raging in your head. You've built them a luxury suite in your mind, complete with all the amenities, your time, your attention, your pain, and they're lounging there, completely unaware. You're keeping them alive in a place they don't even deserve to be. They've forgotten you, while you're still remembering them. Why? Why are you still holding on? Why are you paying the price for someone who left without looking back? Why are you letting them take up space they stopped earning a long time ago? It's time to evict them, cancel the lease, throw their memories out like the trash they left behind. Pack up all the false hope, the unanswered questions, the what-ifs that are rotting in the corners of your mind, and burn it all down. They don't get to live in your head for free anymore. They lost that privilege the moment they stopped caring. They're not worth another second of your energy, not worth a single thought, not worth even one more minute of your life. It's time to raise the rent so high that only self-respect, peace, and healing can afford to stay. They've taken enough from you, and they didn't even bother to say thank you. Say this out loud. I am done giving free space to those who don't deserve me. Write it in the comments. Claim it. Own it. Evict their memory from your mind, because your peace is too expensive for anyone who can't afford to value it. 7. Don't just burn the bridge. Blow up the whole damn road. You've been told to burn the bridge and walk away, but what if I told you that burning the bridge isn't enough? Blow up the whole damn road. Because let's be real, people like them always find a way back. They creep in through the cracks, slither in through side streets, and sneak through paths you thought you closed. They thrive on your soft spots. Your maybe one last time, your I'll just hear them out. They know exactly how to get back to you. Burning the bridge just isn't enough when they've memorized the route to your heart. They've taken that path so many times they could find their way back with their eyes closed. And if you leave even the smallest trail behind, they will use it. You've tried it before, haven't you? Cut them off, blocked their number, ignored their messages, but somehow they came back. Maybe it was weeks later, maybe months. They sent that "I miss you" text, that "Hey, how have you been" message, and boom, you were right back where you started. Why? Because burning the bridge wasn't enough. The bridge was just the easy route. But people like them, they're resourceful. If you don't blow up the entire damn road, they'll build a new one. They'll find a different way in. They'll show up when you least expect it, acting like nothing ever happened, pretending they've changed. But you know better, don't you? You've seen this before. You've lived it. You've given them chance after chance, only to be left in ashes again. It's time to stop being the welcome back station. Stop leaving doors cracked open. Stop hoping they'll one day cross that bridge with sincerity, humility, and love. They won't. People like them don't change. They adapt. They learn how to manipulate you better, how to break through the walls you think are impenetrable. They're not interested in fixing the past. They're interested in reclaiming control. So what do? You blow up the road. You level the ground. You salt the earth so nothing can grow back. Not regret, not hope, not second chances. You make it impossible for them to return, even if they tried. No calls, no texts, no explanations, no apologies required. Just silence and indifference, not as a game, but as a final, irreversible decision. No more unfinished business. No more waiting for closure. No more reopening old wounds. It's time to burn it all down and walk away like the whole thing never existed. They'll notice, but by then, it'll be too late. The road will be gone. The bridge will be nothing but ashes, and you'll be too far ahead to even hear them call your name. Say this out loud. I'm done rebuilding bridges for people who burned me. Write it in the comments. Declare it. Own it. Blow up the whole damn road because you're never going back. 8. You're the phoenix. Rise. Don't apologize. Have you ever seen shattered glass on the floor? 1,000 jagged pieces, sharp, dangerous, broken beyond repair. People look at it and think, useless, throw it away. But what if that shattered glass didn't stay broken? What if it melted in the fire, reshaped itself, came back stronger, deadlier even? That's what you are. You're not meant to stay broken. You're not here to be tossed aside like something disposable. You are the phoenix, the one who rises from destruction, not as what you used to be, but as something unrecognizable. But I know what you're thinking. I'm too broken, too hurt, too damaged. No, you're not broken. You've been transformed. The people who shattered you, they didn't break you. They remade you. Every betrayal, every lie, every empty promise, they were all fuel. You didn't just survive. You've been forging fire this whole time. You think they got the last laugh? You think they won because they left you in pieces? Let me tell you something. The fire doesn't ask permission to burn. And when you rise, you won't be the same soft-hearted version of yourself they thought they could manipulate. You'll be stronger, sharper, and untouchable. There was a post I read once on a relationship forum. A woman talked about how her longtime partner cheated on her, left her with nothing but debt and broken promises. She hit rock bottom, lost her home, her job, even her friends because everyone chose his side. They told her she was too much, too emotional, too hard to love. You know what she did? She went silent, not as a weapon, but as a reset. She worked 3 jobs, paid off every debt he left behind, rebuilt her life from nothing. 2 years later, she ran into him, and he didn't even recognize her. Not just because she looked different, but because she was different. She was untouchable. That is what rising looks like. It's not about winning them back or making them miss you. It's about becoming so powerful they can't even comprehend the version of you they once discarded. You're not their victim. You're their wake-up call. And I know. What if they come back? What if they've changed? What if they finally realize what they lost? Let me be brutally honest. They won't change. Even if they come back, it's not because they're sorry. It's because they're losing control. People like that don't regret hurting you. They regret losing access to you. They miss what you did for them, not who you are. They miss the comfort, the attention, the power. You think they'll wake up one day and say, I shouldn't have treated them like that. But here's the truth. They've moved on without even looking back, until they realize they can't find anyone who will put up with them the way you did. That's when they crawl back. But by then, you won't be the same person anymore. They'll try their old tricks, the sweet apologies, the fake promises. But fire remembers every lie they told, every tear they made you cry, every sleepless night. You've burned it into your memory. People like that expect you to stay soft. They expect you to wait, to hope, to forgive. But they're not ready for the version of you that rises. They're not ready for the unapologetic, untouchable, unstoppable force you've become. You think you're still the person they hurt? You're not. That person died in the fire, and from those ashes, you were born. There's a quote by Nikita Gill. They broke the wrong parts of me. They broke my wings but forgot I had claws. That's you now. You may have lost your softness, your innocence, but you gained something far greater, power. You're no longer asking for respect. You demand it. You're no longer waiting for someone to choose you. You've already chosen yourself. You're not looking back, hoping they'll miss you. You've set everything behind you on fire, so there's nothing left to return to. People think rising means being perfect, that you have to heal quietly, gracefully, without making noise. Forget that. Rise loudly, rise fierce, rise unapologetically. You don't owe anyone an explanation for how you choose to rebuild yourself. You don't need to justify your strength to anyone who only ever benefited from your weakness. You're the phoenix. You don't rise for them. You rise for you. Say this out loud. I rise unapologetically. Write it in the comments. Declare it. Claim it. Let them wonder what happened to the version of you they thought they broke. They'll never see you coming. Rise. Don't apologize. Ever.